The wind howled outside the broken dome. Sharp ice crystals blew in from the cracks in the metal walls, but inside, the small heater hummed quietly. It was old, barely working, but it was enough to keep the cold from freezing them both to death. Corporal. Mara Jennings sat beside the unconscious alien. His body was strange. Tall, thin, with silver blue skin and ridged arms that looked half like armor. His chest rose and fell slowly. She watched every breath carefully. She had no idea why she had done it. Mara had found him on the battlefield, surrounded by smoke and broken machines. He had been left behind by his own kind. The Valari commander saw the wounds and simply turned. Away. No orders to retrieve, no mercy, just gone. And Mara? She had been ordered to return to the dropship too. But when she saw the alien soldier twitch, just barely, she stopped walking. She had turned around. Now here they were, alone. Enemy and enemy, trapped in a dome meant for storage, not survival. But at least it had walls, a med kit, and a weak comlink that wasn't working. Mara leaned forward and placed her hand on the alien's forehead. He was burning up. Her translator implant didn't work well with his language, but she had figured out enough of his vitals to know one thing. He was dying. She worked quickly. The human med kit wasn't designed for Valari biology, but Mara was smart. She was trained to adapt. Her fingers trembled as she mixed chemicals and fluids, carefully injecting them into his veins. She adjusted the IV, wiped blood from his neck, and wrapped a burn across his shoulder. Hours passed. Finally, the alien stirred. His eyes opened slowly, pale gold, glowing faintly in the dark. He blinked at her, confused, then tried to sit up, only to fall back with a sharp gasp. "Easy," Mara said softly. "You're safe. For now." Calthrix didn't understand her words, not at first. But he understood her tone. Gentle, not mocking, not cold. Different from the voices of war. He groaned and looked around. The room was small and strange. Rusted shelves, broken crates. He smelled human supplies. He smelled blood. His own. His. Mind sharpened suddenly. Human. The enemy. A soldier. A medic. He tensed, trying to reach for his weapon. It wasn't there. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said. "If I wanted you dead, I wouldn't have patched you up." He didn't reply. His jaw clenched. His kind believed humans were brutal, clever beasts, dangerous, but she had saved him. "Why?" he finally asked, voice dry and thick with pain. "Why help me?" Mara sighed. She didn't know how to explain it. Not really. "Because it was the right thing to do," she said. "Even if you're not one of us." Calthrix turned his head and looked away. In his world, mercy was weakness, only the strong survived. A commander who showed kindness was seen as soft, but the human had done something his own people wouldn't. She stayed. "I'm Calthrix," he said quietly after a long silence. Mara blinked. She hadn't expected that. "Mara," she replied. "Corporal Mara Jennings, Earth Coalition." He nodded once, his body ached everywhere, but his mind was slowly clearing. "I should be dead," he said. "Maybe," Mara replied. "But you're not. I didn't want to watch someone die alone." Outside, the storm howled louder. Snow and ash whipped against the dome. Their comms were silent. No one was looking for them. They were forgotten. Calthrix looked at the human. Again. She sat close to the heater, watching him carefully. Not with fear. Not with hatred. Just calm, steady eyes. "You're strange," he said. Mara smiled slightly. "Yeah. I get that a lot." He didn't smile back, but his eyes softened a little. There was something in her voice. Not just kindness. Something deeper. A quiet strength. She had risked everything to help him. He didn't understand why, but maybe one day he would. As the wind screamed and the stars above vanished behind clouds of dust, two enemies sat in silence. Not as soldiers, but as people. Cold wind screamed outside the broken dome, shaking the metal walls like an angry beast. Inside, A small emergency heater gave off a weak orange glow, just enough to keep the freezing air away. The silence inside was heavy. Corporal Mara Jennings, a human field medic, sat quietly beside an injured alien soldier. His name, according to a half-working ID tag on his armor, was Kilthrix. He was from the Valari Dominion, the enemy in this long, cruel war. His skin was pale blue with silver lines running along his neck and arms. His breathing was shallow and slow. His chest was bandaged. Mara had done all she could with the tools she had. She stared at him, her hand still stained with his strange, dark blood. "I should have left you," she whispered to herself. She had been ordered to evacuate with the rest of her squad. The fight on Javix 3 had gone badly for both sides. Many were dead, and the commanders had given the retreat signal. While walking back to the dropship, Mara had seen Kilthrix lying in the snow, motionless, his body half buried under broken metal. Most soldiers would have walked past. She didn't. Mara dragged him through the icy dust, pulled him into this old, half-collapsed dome, and used what little medical gear she had to stop the bleeding. His body was different, his organs not like anything she had studied, but she did her best. She didn't expect him to live. But now, hours later, his eyelids moved. His hand twitched. He was waking up. Kilthrix groaned. His head felt heavy, his limbs weak. Pain burned through his chest. He blinked, his vision blurry at first. Then shapes became clear. A firelight glow. Metal walls. And beside him, a human. His enemy. He tried to sit up quickly, but a sharp pain made him fall back. He growled in frustration. Mara turned her head. "You're awake," she said quietly. Kilthrix frowned. His throat was dry. Where am I?" he asked, his voice rough. "Inside a storage dome," she replied. "Somewhere near the crash site. You were left behind. Your people didn't come back for you." Kilthrix's eyes narrowed. He remembered now. The explosion, the retreat, the cold command of his superior. His own leader had looked at him, saw his injuries, and simply said, "Leave him. He is no longer useful." Bitterness filled Kilthrix's chest, but he said nothing. "Why?" he asked instead. "Why didn't you leave me too?" Mara paused. It was a fair question. "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe I couldn't stand the thought of someone dying alone, even if they're not human." He looked at her carefully. Her voice wasn't mocking. There was no pride in it, just truth. She had risked her life to save him even though she didn't have to. "You're strange," he said. Mara smiled a little. "I've heard that before." Kilthrix studied her. She had short dark hair, tired eyes, and a cut on her cheek. She looked cold and exhausted, and yet she was still watching him like she cared. No one from his own people had ever done that for him, not even his commanding officers. He tried to move again, but she reached out quickly and held his shoulder down. "Don't," she said. "You're not healed yet. Your ribs are still broken. I used human medicine, but I don't know how long it will last." Kilthrix sighed. His pride didn't like being weak in front of a human, but he was too tired to argue. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. "Mara," she said. "Corporal Mara Jennings." He nodded slowly. "I am Kilthrix. Strike Unit 3 of the Valari Dominion." They sat in silence for a few moments. The wind outside screamed louder, but inside the dome it was calm. "I never thought I'd be saved by someone like you," he said. "And I never thought I'd be patching up a Valari," Mara replied. "But here we are." Kilthrix gave a short breath. It almost sounded like a laugh. "Not quite, but close. You could be punished for this," he said, "helping the enemy. It's forbidden." "I know," she said, "but I made an oath. To save lives when I can, not just human ones." Kilthrix looked away. The words hit harder than he expected. Humans were supposed to be cold, cruel, always looking to conquer. That's what he had been taught since birth, but this one, she was different. As sleep started to pull him back into darkness, Kyle Thrick spoke one more time. "Thank you, Mara." She looked at him surprised. "You're welcome," she said softly. "Rest. You're safe. For now." And in that frozen dome, under the howling wind of a dead moon, an unlikely bond had begun. Snow and ash covered the outside world like a thick gray blanket. The broken dome, hidden between icy hills, had become both a prison and a home. Days had passed since the battle ended. No rescue came, no messages were received, only silence. Inside the dome, Mara sat beside a small heat lamp, checking supplies. There wasn't much left, half a ration pack, some water, and a few medical tools. She made careful notes on a pad, her handwriting neat and small. Survival. Required patience, and patience was something she had learned during war. Across from her, Cale Thrix lay on a sleeping mat made from thermal sheets. His wounds were healing slowly. The bruises on his chest had faded, and the burns on his arms were almost gone. He could sit up now. He could walk a little too, though he still limped. But trust, that was slower to heal. Cale Thrix watched Mara as she worked. He had never been this close to a human without a weapon in hand. He had always believed humans were wild, chaotic beings, smart but dangerous. That's what the Dominion taught them, yet this woman was calm, steady. She didn't speak much, but her actions said enough. She cooked for him, checked his wounds, and gave him the larger share of warmth at night. She even shared her last chocolate bar with him, saying, "This is called sweet. You've probably never had one." He hadn't. It was strange and soft and, honestly, not terrible. One evening, as the wind outside howled again, Cale Thrix finally broke the silence. "You are not what I expected." Mara looked up. "What did you expect?" He paused. "Humans. You fight with rage. You change plans fast. You burn through worlds like fire." She smiled a little. "And Valari think too much. Cold, careful, always judging." Cale Thrix nodded. "That's not wrong." They both chuckled. Just a little. It was the first time either of them laughed together. Something inside the dome felt lighter that night. Later, Cale Thrix asked, "Why are you still helping me?" Mara looked at him. Her face was tired but honest. "Because you're still alive," she said, "and that means you still matter." He didn't respond. The words sat heavy in his chest. His own commander had left him to die. But this human, this enemy, had saved him again and again. Cale Thrix stood slowly and walked to the corner, where they kept a small view panel. Outside, the sky was dark with green clouds. Ice blew across the hills. No life moved out there. No ships. No signals. Just emptiness. "We are truly alone," he said. "Yeah," Mara answered, "but it's better than dying out there." They sat together on the floor. The silence between them was no longer sharp. It felt calm now, almost peaceful. "Where is your home?" Cale Thrix asked suddenly. Mara blinked. No one had asked her that in years. "Earth," she said. "A city called Denver. Mountains, cold winters, bright stars. My mom runs a bakery. I used to help." He tilted his head. "What is a bakery?" She smiled. "A place where we make bread, cakes, things that make life feel normal." Cale Thrix was quiet for a moment. "That sounds good." He then shared something too. "I was born on Valar Tel, the Sky City. We don't have food like that. Everything is designed, clean, efficient, but cold. Always cold." Mara looked at him. "Do you miss it?" "No," he said. "I was trained to leave it behind. But now, I miss something. I don't know what." They didn't talk much after that. Words weren't always needed. But the next day things changed. A sudden sound broke the silence, a faint ping, then another. Mara ran to the signal board. The old system had picked up something. "Is it a ship?" Cale Thrix asked, standing quickly. "No, I don't know. It's weak." Could be a scavenger signal. Could be anything. They both stared at the blinking light, hope and fear mixed in their hearts. Rescue could mean life, or danger, or worse, capture. If it's my people, Kyle Thrick said quietly, they will kill you. If it's mine, Mara replied, they'll chain you. They looked at each other. The space between them felt smaller now. Not like enemies, not like strangers, something else. We should decide, she said. Do we call for help, or stay hidden? Kyle Thrix didn't answer right away. He just looked at her, this human who had changed everything he believed. And for the first time in his life, he was not sure where his duty ended, and something deeper began. The small dome had never felt so quiet. The signal light blinked softly on the wall, steady and calm, but to Mara and Kyle Thrix it felt like a loud alarm. A message had been detected. Someone was nearby. Mara stepped back from the signal board. She crossed her arms, her face thoughtful. Kyle Thrix stood beside her, staring at the screen with sharp eyes. It's not from Earth Command, she said. Not from the Volari fleet either, Kyle Thrix added. It's something else. They looked at each other. Scavengers? She asked. He nodded slowly. Could be. Many fly near dead battlefields, looking for tech, bodies, anything they can sell. Mara sighed. And if they find us? Kyle Thrix's jaw tightened. They will take what they want, and we are not worth much, unless they sell us to our own sides. She understood. Human Command would jail her for helping the enemy. Volari would likely execute Kyle Thrix for failing his mission, or worse, for being weak. They had two choices now, call for help, or stay hidden. Mara looked down at her boots. We can't hide here forever. Kyle Thrix glanced at the flickering heater. The power was dying. Supplies were nearly gone. His wounds were healing, but they would not survive another week. Can send a signal, he said. Use emergency code, they may pick it up. Mara gave him a long look. You're sure? No, he answered. But we don't have time. She nodded slowly. Then, let's do it. They worked together in silence, connecting old wires, boosting the signal through parts they had saved. Mara tapped on the console while Kyle Thrix rewired the beacon. Their hands brushed once, just a small touch, but both noticed. Finally, the signal went out. A simple message. 2 survivors, in need of rescue. Coordinates attached. Then they waited. Hours passed. The dome grew colder. To distract themselves, Mara and Kyle Thrix talked. Not about war, not about the signal, but about life. I used to like stars, Mara said. When I was young, I thought they were tiny holes in the sky. Kyle Thrix looked up through the cracked ceiling where a few stars still blinked. My people believe stars are memories. Each one is the story of a warrior who lived with honor, she smiled. That's beautiful. He turned toward her. You've shown more honor than many of my own. Mara didn't know what to say. Later, as they shared the last of the food, Kyle Thrix looked at her with soft eyes. Why did you really save me? He asked again, more gently this time. She thought for a moment. Because when I saw you, lying there, I didn't see a monster, she said. I saw someone who didn't want to die alone, and maybe I didn't want to be alone either. Kyle Thrix was silent. He understood now. She had saved him not just with her hands, but with her heart. Suddenly, the console beeped, a response. Mara ran to the screen. A ship was inbound, small, civilian tag, not Earth or Volari, scavenger class. They're close, she said. Maybe 10 minutes out. Kyle Thrix stood still stiff from pain. Then we must be ready. They gathered their things, weapons, tools, the small pack of tech Kyle Thrix had hidden. They didn't know if the visitors would help them or sell them. When the ship landed, it was quiet and fast. A light flickered from the hatch. Mara and Kyle Thrix stepped out slowly, hands raised. 3 figures appeared, humanoid, masked, carrying scanners. Signal confirmed, one said. Survivors, human and Volari. Strange pair, another muttered. What's your deal? We need transport, Mara said. We'll trade tech for it. Kael'thric stepped forward, holding out a glowing sphere. Valari plasma, core, still active. The scavengers looked at each other. One whistled. That'll do. But, the leader said, we don't work for free. You both come with us, cargo or crew, that's your choice. Mara and Kael'thric exchanged a glance. No cuffs, no chains, she said firmly. No cages, Kael'thric added. The scavengers laughed. Fine, but don't try anything. They boarded the ship. The air inside smelled of metal and oil. Old screens blinked from every wall. Mara and Kael'thric sat side by side in the back corner, saying nothing. As the engines roared to life, lifting them from the dead moon, Kael'thric spoke softly. You risked your life for me. Again, she looked at him. So did you. He reached out slowly and placed his hand over hers. A simple gesture. Quiet. Honest. They were still from two worlds, but something was changing. Something real. The scavenger ship hummed as it cut through the thick clouds above the frozen moon. Inside, the air smelled sharp with metal and old oil. The small cabin was dimly lit, with flickering screens lining the walls. Mara sat beside Kael'thric, both tired but alert. The scavengers who had rescued them were rough with quick eyes and sharper words. They had taken Kael'thric's plasma core, a valuable piece of alien technology, as payment. But now their true demand was clear. You're coming with us, the leader said, a tall figure with a dark helmet that hid his face. You're both prisoners until we decide what to do. Mara's heart raced. She glanced at Kael'thric. He clenched his fists but said nothing. Prisoners, Mara repeated. We didn't sign up for this. The scavenger laughed. You don't get a choice. People like you are worth a lot. Kael'thric shifted. We won't be treated like cargo. The scavenger shrugged. Your choice. Follow the rules, and you might survive. Hours passed. The ship's engines vibrated beneath them, and the lights flickered again. Mara and Kael'thric were kept in separate rooms, small and cold. Mara paced the tiny space. She thought about Earth, her home, her family, the life she'd left behind. And she thought about Kael'thric, the alien soldier, who had been left to die but was now trapped with her in a stranger's ship. The doors hissed open suddenly. Two guards entered, dragging Kael'thric down the hall. Mara heard his shout, a mix of pain and anger. She rushed after them, ignoring the protests of her guard. When she reached the holding room, Kael'thric was on the floor, struggling against the rough hands of the scavengers. Stop! Mara shouted. Leave him alone! The guards froze for a moment, surprised by her courage. Kael'thric looked up, pain in his eyes, but also a spark of something stronger. I won't let them hurt you, Mara said firmly. Kael'thric nodded, trying to catch his breath. Without warning, the guards pushed him toward the exit. But before they could pull him away, Kael'thric sprang forward. With strength born of desperation, he broke free from their grip. Mara gasped, but didn't move. Kael'thric grabbed her hand, pulling her behind a large crate. Run, he whispered. They darted through narrow corridors, the sounds of shouts and footsteps close behind them. Turning a corner, they found an emergency pod. Without hesitation, Kael'thric activated it. The pod's hatch opened and they jumped inside. The door sealed shut, and the pod's engines powered up. Outside, the scavenger ship seemed to explode, with alarms. The pod shot away quickly, crashing into the cold, rocky surface of a nearby moon. Mara winced as the pod shook violently. The landing was rough, but they were alive. When the hatch opened, the cold air hit them like a blast. The sky was a dull green, and the ground was covered in sharp blue grass that seemed to glow faintly. Kael'thric pulled Mara to her feet. We're not safe yet. They moved away from the pod, careful to leave no trace. For hours they wandered through the strange landscape, looking for shelter. Finally, they found a small cave, hidden behind a cluster of glowing rocks. Inside, the air was warmer and still. They lit a small fire with what little fuel Mara had left. Sitting close to the fire, Mara looked at Calthrix. He was silent, staring into the flames. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You saved me again." Mara smiled softly. "I couldn't leave you behind." Calthrix looked at her with new understanding. "You are unlike anyone I have ever known." She shook her head. "You're wrong. There's good in all of us, even enemies." They spent the night sharing stories of their homes, their hopes and fears. Mara told Calthrix about Earth's blue skies and endless oceans. Calthrix spoke of his people's floating cities and endless stars. As dawn approached, Mara felt something new, a connection, fragile, but real. But the danger was still out there. Their enemies searched the stars, and neither side wanted them alive. For now, they had each other. And sometimes that was enough. The cold winds outside the cave whispered like ghosts through the sharp rocks. Inside, the fire Mara had built flickered softly, casting warm light over the small shelter. Calthrix sat near the flames, his silver blue, skin glowing faintly in the firelight. Mara watched him carefully. They were safe for now, but the world beyond the cave was still dangerous. Days had passed since their crash landing on the quiet moon. The moon was peaceful, but silence could be broken at any moment by the arrival of enemies. Mara and Calthrix knew this. They had to be ready. Calthrix was healing well, but his pride had grown too. No longer was he the angry soldier who had been left to die. Now he was a man who understood something deeper. He looked at Mara differently, no longer as an enemy, but as a companion. One evening, under the strange green sky filled with unfamiliar stars, Calthrix spoke quietly. "Mara," he said, his voice low and steady, "there is a word in my language, a word that means something very special." Mara looked up from her small notebook, curious. "What is it?" she asked. Calthrix hesitated, then said, "San Vera." The word hung in the air between them. "What does it mean?" Mara asked softly. Calthrix looked into her eyes. "It means beloved beyond battle. It is a word we use only for someone we care for deeply, someone who is more than a friend or ally." Mara's heart beat faster. She had never heard the word before. It was beautiful and strange, like a secret treasure. "I want to call you that," Calthrix said quietly. Mara swallowed, feeling a mix of surprise and warmth. She had never expected this from an alien soldier, especially one from a people so different from her own. I don't know what to say," she whispered. Calthrix smiled faintly. "You don't have to say anything. Just know that you saved my life, not only with your hands but with your heart." For a moment, they sat in silence. The fire crackled softly, and the stars twinkled outside the cave. Mara reached out and gently took Calthrix's hand. Their fingers touched, and for the first time, everything felt right. But peace was fragile. The next morning, as dawn painted the sky in soft colors, distant engines roared. Mara's eyes widened. "They found us," she said. Calthrix stood quickly. "We must prepare." Outside the cave, 2 ships landed, one with the bright colors of the Earth Coalition, the other marked with the sharp insignia of the Valari, Dominion. Soldiers poured out, weapons ready. Both sides had come for them. Mara and Calthrix stepped out of the cave, hands still linked. The soldiers aimed their guns, shouting orders. "Drop your weapons," a human commander barked. "Valari, prisoner surrender," a Valari officer ordered. Mara raised her hand slowly. "Wait," she called. "We mean no harm." Calthrix stood beside her. "We have something to say." The soldiers hesitated, confused by their calm. Calthrix spoke loud and clear. "I was left to die by my own commander. This human saved me." Mara nodded. "We survived together." The commanders looked at each other, unsure. Calthrix continued. "We are not enemies. We are proof that peace is possible, even between us." Mara added, "Punish us if you must. But know this. We chose compassion over war." For a long moment, silence fell. Then slowly, weapons were lowered. The soldiers looked at Mara and Kael'Thrix not as enemies, but as something new, something neither side had seen before. The forbidden word, San Vera, was more than just a name. It was a promise that even in the darkest times hope could live. The cold wind from the barren moon whipped fiercely against the assembled soldiers and officers. The small group, half human, half Valari, stood tense and uncertain. Mara and Kael'Thrix faced their respective commanders, hands still lightly touching, a silent sign of their bond. The silence stretched for a long moment, broken only by the hiss of the wind and distant hums of ships waiting nearby. Kael'Thrix took a deep breath. His voice was steady but carried the weight of his anger and hope. My commander left me to die because I was hurt. I was abandoned. That is not honor. It is cowardice. He looked directly at the Valari officer standing before him, a man with sharp eyes and rigid posture. If honor means leaving your soldiers to die, then honor is a lie. The Valari officer's face tightened. For a moment it seemed he would reply with anger, but instead he remained silent. Mara stepped forward. Her voice was calm but firm. I am a medic. I swore to save lives, no matter the cost. Kael'Thrix is no enemy to me. He is a person like you and me. She turned to the human commander, and I risked my career and my life to save him. The human officer glanced at her with a mix of surprise and doubt. But I do not regret it, Mara added, because what we have, this bond, is proof. Proof that peace is not impossible, that humanity's strength is in our compassion. The crowd murmured quietly, some soldiers lowering their weapons, others exchanging uncertain looks. Kael'Thrix took Mara's hand more firmly. We were enemies once, he said, but now we stand together. Not as soldiers or enemies, but as friends, maybe more. The word hung in the air, delicate but powerful. The commanders exchanged glances. The tension in the group slowly eased. The Valari officer finally spoke. Your actions are dangerous, he said, voice low but clear. But your courage is undeniable. The human commander nodded. There will be questions. There will be trials. But today, you both chose something greater than war. Mara looked at Kael'Thrix and smiled softly. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Kael'Thrix returned the smile, hope shining in his eyes. Behind them, a comms officer broadcast the scene across multiple channels. Images of a human and Valari standing side by side. Speaking words of peace were sent to fleets and governments on both sides. Across distant worlds, soldiers and citizens watched. Whispers began. They said humans were monsters. One voice said in a crowded room. But maybe, just maybe, they're the hope we never had. Mara and Kael'Thrix stood firm as the crowd slowly began to lower their weapons, not just in surrender but in understanding. For the first time, the war felt less certain. The future was no longer just a battlefield, but a chance for something new, a chance for unity, a chance for hope, and a choice that would echo through history.